Have you ever really stopped to think about what's going on inside a casino? Beyond all the flashing lights and the sounds of jackpots, there's this hidden architecture, this system that's so perfectly designed, it's almost like its own self-contained universe. So let's pull back that curtain and really see how this thing works. Right? We all think of gambling as this dance with Lady Luck, a game of pure chance. But what if I told you that's the biggest illusion of them all? What if every single thing you see, from the pattern on the carpet to the back of the cards, is part of a very deliberate, very careful design? Because that's really the heart of it. A casino is a closed system. It's a loop. It's an environment engineered with one and only one purpose: to get you in the door and then to keep you there, playing, for as long as humanly possible. Okay, so to really get how this works, we first have to map out the trap itself. And it is a trap. It's an absolute marvel of environmental and psychological engineering, built specifically to make you forget about the real world. Just think of the casino as a bubble. It's its own little universe. The second you step across that threshold, the normal rules, they just don't apply anymore. And the most important rule they want you to forget, the passage of time itself. So, how do they do it? Well, they use this fascinating thing called neuroarchitecture. Let's break down the toolkit. First up, temporal isolation. Ever notice there are no windows, no clocks? They want you completely unmoored from time, existing only in the now of the game. Second, the labyrinth layout. You know how you can never seem to find the exit? That's on purpose. The maze-like paths force you to walk past more and more games. Then there's the sensory saturation, the constant lights, the bells, and get this, those jackpot bells are often tuned to a pleasant C major chord. It's all designed to keep your brain buzzing and impulsive. And finally, the masterstroke, chip abstraction. You're not betting your hard-earned cash, you're betting these fun, colorful plastic discs. It completely disconnects your brain from the actual pain of losing real money. And inside this bubble universe, there's one fundamental law of physics. It's called the house edge. And it's basically gravity. It's this constant, invisible force that guarantees over millions and millions of bets that all the money is flowing in one direction, straight to the house. This slide just lays it out perfectly. It's a tale of two realities. On one side, you have the house. It represents unity. It sees the one big picture, and it operates on the law of large numbers. It knows that over time, the math will always work out in its favor. It's not gambling, it's just managing a statistical certainty. But then you have the players. That's multiplicity. We see 1,000 different chaotic random events. We get caught up in things like the gambler's fallacy. You know, the feeling that red is due after 5 blacks in a row? The house knows. Every spin is brand new. It's an asymmetrical war, and honestly, the player is fighting completely blind. So, okay, the environment is the trap. But what's the engine that keeps you sitting there pulling the lever over and over again? Well, that brings us to the psychological hook, and it is an incredibly powerful one. The engine is something called a variable ratio schedule. Now, this concept comes from the psychologist B.F. Skinner, and it is the absolute heart and soul of a modern slot machine. See, instead of getting a reward every, say, 10 times you push a button, you get a reward after a totally random, unpredictable number of pushes. It could be the very next one, or it could be 100 from now. You just don't know. So why is that so powerful? It's the uncertainty. That's the hook. Your brain can't find a pattern, so it stays completely glued, hyper-engaged. That little thought, well, maybe the very next one is the big one? That is one of the most compelling forces in all of behavioral psychology, and it's why it's so hard to just walk away. And to make it even more addictive, the system literally uses deception. You know the near miss, when the jackpot symbols land just one spot above or below the pay line? That is not an accident. It's a loss that is deliberately designed to feel like you almost won. And what's crazy is that it triggers the same reward centers in your brain as an actual win, which just makes you want to hit that button one more time. And here's the crucial part. This isn't random. Modern slot machines use something called virtual reel mapping. So the physical reel you see might have, say, 22 symbols on it, but the computer program running it has hundreds of virtual stops. And that software is specifically programmed to make those near misses show up way more often than they ever would by pure chance. It's all designed to keep you hooked on that feeling of being so close. And when this engine runs wild, it creates this tragically predictable spiral. It usually starts with the winning phase. You get an early, big win, and it creates this totally unreasonable sense of optimism, like you've got a special skill. But then comes the losing phase, because the math of the house edge always kicks in. And that's when a player starts chasing losses, trying to win it all back. And finally, you hit the desperation phase, where the loop just takes over completely. And, well, it often leads to total financial ruin. The system is built to guide you down every step of that path.
But here's the thing. Not everyone who walks into that bubble interacts with the system in the same way. Once you actually understand the rules of this universe, you start to see the different kinds of players that live inside it.
This table is a fantastic map of those player types. Down at the bottom, you've got the casual player. They're there for entertainment. They're basically the fuel that makes the whole system run. A step up, you have the problem gambler, who becomes a slave to the machine's loop. But then it starts to get interesting. You've got the strategy player. This is someone who uses things like basic strategy and blackjack to kind of slow the bleeding and make their money last longer. But way up at the top, you have the advantage player. And their goal isn't just to survive, it's to attack the system.
And that, of course, leads us to the million-dollar question. Is it actually possible to beat the house? To flip the whole system on its head? The answer? Yes, but probably not in the way you're thinking. See, advantage players know a secret. They've realized that trying to beat a game that's mathematically rigged against you is a fool's errand. So they don't play the game. They play the system. They completely shift their focus. They're not looking at the cards or the dice. They're looking for cracks, for flaws, for loopholes in the rules of the casino itself. They're hunting for those rare moments where the mathematical edge actually, for a brief moment, flips in their favor. And their toolkit is just fascinating. Card counting in blackjack isn't magic, it's just math. You're tracking the ratio of high cards to low cards so you know when to bet big. Edge sorting is even wilder. These players learn to spot tiny, microscopic flaws on the backs of playing cards from the factory, which lets them know a card's value before it's even flipped over. And then there's comp hustling, which is basically playing the casino's own reward system so well that you get more back in free rooms, food, and perks than you're mathematically expected to lose at the tables. Now, at the absolute highest levels, this kind of thinking splits into two modes. First is game theory optimal, or GTO. Think of it as a perfect unbreakable defense. If you play GTO, you literally cannot lose in the long run. But perfect defense isn't always the fastest way to win. That's where exploitative play comes in. This is pure offense. It's a strategy designed to find your opponent's specific mistakes and punish them for maximum profit. A true master knows when to put up the shield and when to draw the sword. So after this whole journey, from the psychology of the trap to the strategies of the masters, what's the final takeaway? What is the ultimate truth of this perfect loop? Well, after all the math, all the strategy, you eventually arrive at a pretty stark realization. The ultimate truth of the casino is that the only way to truly win, to win consistently and without any risk, is to become the house. The house is the only player in that room that isn't actually gambling. It has a positive expectation, a mathematical edge on every single bet made. It's the operator. It owns the game. And that is the only guaranteed winning position there is. So where does that leave us? It all comes down to this really powerful idea. The real win isn't in the outcome of a single hand or a single spin. That's always going to be subject to luck. The real victory is in the process. It's about making the absolute best decision you can with the information you have. And maybe, just maybe, the best decision of all is understanding the game so perfectly that you choose not to play at all.